order. It is 6:30. Please, let's rise and do the pledge. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we have the roll call, please?
Chair Kloetter.
I believe he is excused absence.
Yes, the chairman is absent this evening.
Vice Chair Schwartz.
Present.
Commissioner Lee. Commissioner McMorris. And Commissioner Krapman. Thank you.
Okay. Tonight's meeting will be live streamed on Cable Channel 3 and all of our online platforms. To prevent any overlap in comments, each commissioner will be called on to speak tonight on each item. Now is the time for public comments. This is the time for members of the public to address the commission on items that are not on tonight's agenda, but that are within the purview of the Planning Commission. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the commission can't respond or answer questions until such time that an item on your topic may be on an agenda in the future. If you wish to address us, there are speaker cards on the back table, and please fill one out and give it to Jackie. And you would have 3 minutes to speak on any item, again, within our purview. We'll call you one at a time if anybody wants to speak. Are there any speakers for tonight's meeting? Do you have any cards for public comment?
Vice Chair, I didn't receive any.
Okay. Okay. All right, seeing nobody, we will close the public comment. We will go to the consent calendar, and all the items are routine, and they'll be approved in one motion, but really all we have is the minutes from the meeting of August the 14th, 2023. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Are there any comments or any changes? If not, I will entertain a motion for the minutes. Okay, well, I guess I made the motion. All right. Can we have a roll call, please?
Okay.
I guess I did.
Jerry first, seconded by Commissioner Krapman. Okay, let's start with Vice Chair Schwartz.
Yes.
Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner McMorris.
Yes.
And Commissioner Krapman. Okay, the vote is 4-0. Minutes approved.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Tonight we have 2 public hearing items. And before we begin, I'd like to ask our planning manager, Samantha Twissart, to go over the public hearing procedures for tonight.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. Copies of tonight's agenda are available on the city's website at www.sangabrielcity.com, and again by on the table by the entrance. And if you wish to speak on an item this evening and are not the project applicant, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the recording secretary, which is Jackie this evening. Please write down the item number that you would like to speak on, and speakers will be called up one by one to the podium during the public hearing portion of each item, and each speaker will be given up to 3 minutes to speak. Again, there are 2 public hearing items this evening to be considered by the Planning Commission. For the items tonight, staff will provide a brief summary of the staff report, followed by any clarifying questions from the Commission. And prior to the close of the public hearing, the Commission may ask additional questions of staff or the applicant. However, once the public hearing is closed, the opportunity for public comment has ended. And with that, Chairman, staff is ready to present the first item.
Thank you. The first item tonight is 400 to 420 West Valley Boulevard, planning case number CUP 23006. Conditional use permit applicant Moon 386 LLC. Marlon Cervantes, assistant planner. Sure.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Good evening, Vice Chair and members of the Planning Commission. The public hearing item before you tonight is for a conditional use permit to allow for the on-site sale and consumption of beer, wine, and spirits at a proposed restaurant located at 400 through 420 West Valley Boulevard, Suite 240, planning case number CUP 23-006. The proposed project is located in a mixed-use development at the south side of Valley Boulevard between Abbott Avenue to the east and New Avenue to the west. The development was previously approved in 2015 and is currently undergoing construction. The subject property is located in the MU/C or mixed-use corridor zone of the Valley Boulevard specific plan area and has a general plan land use designation of commercial specific plan. The restaurant is located in Suite 240 of the new mixed-use development. The interior space of the restaurant measures 5,760 square feet, featuring 152 seats and 13 seats at the bar. The restaurant also features an adjacent patio shown on the top portion of the floor plan there, measuring 2,626 square feet with an additional 112 seats and 13 additional seats at the bar. The proposed use will be a full-service restaurant called Moon 368, which specializes in Asian and California-style cuisine. The hours of operation for the restaurant are Monday through Sunday from 9 a.m. to 12 a.m., which comply with the city's regulations regarding alcohol service. The restaurant will serve full meals during regular business hours and does not propose any live entertainment. The Municipal Code Section 153.162A3A states that in determining whether to approve a CUP application for alcoholic beverage sales, the Planning Commission shall consider the nature and use of real property within 500 feet of the use, and in particular, the location of similar nearby uses and location of residences, parks, schools, and churches. The proposed business is located within a mixed-use building. The subject property will include 133 residential units and a total of 50,500 square feet of leasable commercial area. Additionally, the properties directly surrounding the subject property are zoned MU/C and are a mix of commercial shopping centers to the south featuring additional restaurants, medical, and dental clinics. There are also R2 zone properties, which include a combination of single-family homes and multifamily residences within the 500-foot radius. Planning staff and the San Gabriel Police Department have included additional conditions of approval to ensure that the proposed use will be compatible and harmonious with its surrounding uses. Conditions of approval include the limitation of business hours to no later than 12 a.m. or midnight, that alcoholic beverages shall only be sold in conjunction with food, and the management shall take appropriate measures to ensure that patrons and employees do not disturb neighbors. Additionally, the police department is requiring the installation of video surveillance system and a centrally monitored alarm system, and that management shall immediately notify the police department of any crimes that occur inside the location or in any areas under control of the management, or to any patrons of the location or at the request of any patrons of the location. The general plan land use designation is commercial specific plan. This land use designation allows all uses permitted by the general commercial designation, including retail, service, office, recreation, amusement, and other commercial businesses which provide goods and services for the local population, and those businesses which are targeted towards visitors and commuters. The proposed the project was reviewed for compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. This project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act per guidelines section 15301 for class 1 existing facilities. The item was noticed at the project site and advertised in the August 31, 2023 edition of the San Gabriel Sun, and a notice was sent to all property owners and tenants within a 500-foot radius. Tonight's agenda was also posted at City Hall, the Post Office, and the Public Library. Finally, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Gabriel, California, approving planning case number CUP 23-006 for conditional use permit at 400 through 420 West Valley Boulevard, Suite 240, to allow for the on-site sale and consumption of beer, wine, and spirits, and grant the determination of public convenience and necessity at a proposed restaurant, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. That concludes the presentation. Staff is available for questions as well as the applicant.
Okay, first, any questions of staff?
Yes, Vice Chair, quick questions.
Go ahead.
The hours for allowance for alcohol consumptions, is it consistent with the city policy?
It is, yes. City policy allows requires an additional conditional use permit for any businesses that propose to sell, propose to be open or sell alcohol between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Anything outside of that is within the allowable hours.
That's all I have, Vice Chair.
Marlon? The hours of the restaurant are 9 to midnight.
Correct.
Are they really going to sell alcohol at 9 in the morning?
I believe that's a question that the applicant might be able to answer better than myself.
Okay, and are we good as staff, as a city, to say they can serve all the way to midnight? Meaning someone can have a drink at midnight and then walk out?
The project was reviewed by our police department. They had no objections to that.
Okay. Thanks. Anybody else with questions? Okay. Maybe we should hear from the applicant.
Sure.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here on behalf of Moon 368 Restaurant, which has a pending conditional use permit application to allow the sale of a full line of alcohol at a new full-service restaurant. The restaurant will be located on the second floor of a new mixed-use development located at 400 to 420 West Valley Boulevard. The site is located within the MUC mixed-use corridor and the Valley Boulevard specific plan area. The development totals 233,000 square feet and includes condominiums and about 50,000 square feet of commercial space. The site also offers 467 on-site parking spaces for all the uses at the site. The restaurant will occupy a 5,760 square foot interior space on the second floor and offer 165 interior seats. There will also be an adjacent 2,626 square foot patio area with an additional 135 seats. Proposed hours of operation, 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. daily. Maybe I can take a moment to comment on the questions about the hours of operation. The restaurant is located on the second floor within a mixed-use building with a large number of on-site tenants. So they're hoping to serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the site, hoping to draw in all those on-site tenants to keep them at the restaurant and on-site doing business. The 9 a.m. alcohol service, I would have to ask my wife more about this, but apparently there's a whole group that love mimosas and brunches, something that the working people don't get. Yeah. 12 a.m. closing. If there's no business, they will close earlier, but if the restaurant turns out to be very popular, they hope to be serving those same on-site tenants. No entertainment or dancing is proposed. This will be a restaurant, first and foremost. As we mentioned, restaurant will have Asian Californian menu. That will evolve to find out what's popular and what would be good for their patron base. The restaurant will operate with a Type 47 license, which allows a sale of a full line of alcohol for on-site consumption at a bona fide eating establishment. This means that there must be an on-site kitchen, there must be full meal production at the restaurant, and a menu of food items is available at all hours of operation. The license also requires that no more than 49% of gross receipts be dedicated or from the sale of alcohol. So they want to maintain that it is a restaurant first and foremost and doesn't evolve into a bar. The ABC has run a few checkpoints through Hollywood, different parts of the city, to double check on restaurant operations, to make sure there is a full kitchen, there is a menu of items at all hours of operation. That'll be applied here as well. Let's see, we've had a chance to review the conditions. They all look great. We want to thank planning staff for his assistance in getting this through to a hearing. We do have one question about condition number 11. It states that sale of alcohol shall be complimentary to food service. We'll abide by that. We are a restaurant. We spent a lot of money on a beautiful new kitchen, brought in chefs. We'd like to refer back to the ABC guideline that no more than 49% of our gross receipts can be alcohol related. What I see with this condition, because we have a bar in the center of the restaurant, and it is a high-end restaurant with a built-in clientele in the residential building, is that it could get complicated if someone were to come in and order a drink at the bar without ordering food. Enforcement and compliance with that condition might get sticky, so we just asking maybe we refer back to ABC guidelines that our gross receipts do indicate we are in fact a restaurant and not a bar. With that concludes my presentation. I'd love to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners? Anything? I guess I should ask the attorney about, or staff about that. Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure, I'm available if you have anything.
Okay. Marlon? What about condition 11? No, the change he's proposing to commit to condition 11.
So that's a standard condition that the police department recommends on these types of requests, or these types of applications. At the commission's choosing, they can modify or remove that condition if they like.
All right. Any thoughts about, yes?
Yeah, I wasn't going to ask, but since it was brought up, I did wonder of how, with that condition in there, how it might be calculated if you're serving drinks and they do have a bar there. It seems like it's primarily a restaurant. I don't think it's terribly uncommon. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there's restaurants have a separate bar, but I mean, I think I'm open to some type of compromise. I don't want to undermine anything that the police department, prefers, but I'm open to something if my fellow commissioners are as well.
Chair, if I may, before we get into deliberation, perhaps we should see if there's any other public comment, any other public speakers, and then
Yeah,
close,
that's a good idea.
close the public hearing.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Let us open the hearing and see if there's anybody who wants to speak on this item tonight. Okay. Jackie, have we had any comments received on this item?
Vice Chair, we have not received any.
Okay. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And then let's have discussion about this item and particularly, all right, any thoughts about this item tonight? Who would like to?
Vice Chair, I have a quick question to expert city lawyer on this
Yes.
item number 11. Is there any legality conflicts with that? Legality conflicts with the request?
No, there are no legality conflicts. I presume that monitoring compliance in one way or the other would not be much different for staff. So again, it's a standard condition. The police department usually requests that it's put into the conditions of approval. Planning Commission has the discretion to change that consistent with the applicant's request. The state, the ABC, does set limits based on gross receipts. You have to sell more food than alcohol in a restaurant, if you're a restaurant.
Okay.
I feel that the state's requirements are sufficient. We don't need to add more. And I think it would be very difficult to enforce in terms of, having, now we're having the bartender or the server, enforce this thing and say, oh, you got to buy a bag of potato chips, which would be kind of annoying to the clientele, I'd imagine. So I think if it's within these ABC guidelines, I think that provides sufficient guidance to keep it from becoming just a bar.
Sounds like I'm hearing that there's some willingness to entertain the applicant's request on number 11.
Yeah, I believe the applicant actually cited the state law. Is there a way perhaps we could replace 11 with, just say, shall adhere to the, or is that already in the conditions of approval somewhere? I'm just not, I guess I don't remember out of.
A condition specifically limiting 49% gross receipt sales is not included, but I can certainly modify that.
Maybe, since is that satisfiable to the applicant? I think that you mentioned that, maybe just replace 11 with that, perhaps?
That would be suitable. We're willing to even adjust that further, 45%, if that makes the commissioners feel more comfortable, so that we satisfy both the ABC and what the commissioners are. It will be a restaurant.
Okay. All right. So here's my question. I guess if we make a motion, we can always make the motion with the inclusion of the change on number 11, if that's the pleasure of the commission. So, are there other discussion besides this item 11? Matt, you have anything else you want to lead us off? Anything else you want to say about this item?
Nothing other than I move to approve the CUP with the amendment to number 11.
Just for the record, so 11 will basically state that the conditional use permit limits the amount of alcohol sales to 45% of gross receipts, with the food being 55%, if that's
Yes.
acceptable to the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, Jackie, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner McMorris,
Aye.
Commissioner Kratman,
Yes?
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Schwartz.
Yes.
Okay, vote is 4-0, motion carried.
Good luck to you. Okay. All right. Next is our second public hearing of the evening, 1975 to 1985 South Delmar Avenue, 116 Glendon Way. Planning case number TMAP 23001, tentative track map. The applicant is Tyler and Kelly Architects. And the presentation is by our senior planner, Christine Zong.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. The item before you tonight is a request for the approval of a tentative track map to allow for the subdivision of airspace for residential condominium units within a mixed-use development at 1975 to 1985 South Delmar Avenue and 116 Glendon Way, planning case number TMAP 23-001. The project site is located along the west side of Delmar Avenue between West Glendon Way to the north and West Saxon Avenue to the south. The site is bordered by commercial uses to the north and south and multifamily residences to the east, with single-family residences to the west. The subject parcels are currently developed with automotive repair shops on 2 of the parcels and a residential duplex on the 3rd parcel, which are all proposed to be demolished for the construction of the project. The project site is zoned MUCR for mixed-use corridor residential within the Valley Boulevard specific plan and has a general plan land use designation of commercial specific plan. This is an image of the proposed tentative track map, which would combine the 3 subject parcels into one lot and allow for the subdivision to sell each of the residential units individually. The proposed project complies with the development standards for the MUCR zone in terms of the commercial floor area ratio, the setbacks, the parking, and open space. However, the project does request 2 concessions for the total FAR and number of stories as permitted by the state density bonus law in exchange for providing 10% affordable housing units. The FAR would go from the permitted 2.0 to the proposed 3.69. And the number of stories would go from the permitted 3 stories to proposed 5 stories. Base density is not defined by the Valley Boulevard specific plan or the municipal code, so the density was calculated using a method based on the allowable FAR and the lot area, which will be discussed in the next couple of slides. The state density bonus law allows up to 2 development concessions or incentives when a project provides 10% affordable units at the very low income level. The project proposes a total of 94 units, 86 market rate, and 8 very low income units. 86 of them will be sold at market rate, and 8 would be rented out to eligible individuals and households. The developer must also cite identifiable cost reductions for providing the affordable housing units. The applicant has provided a detailed project description and concession letter, which was provided as attachment C in your staff reports. Although the applicant would qualify for up to a 32.5% density bonus, they are opting for a 23% density bonus. The base density for the site was calculated using the gross building area, which is the lot size, of 40,880 square feet, and the FAR of 2.0. So from the maximum allowable FAR, we subtracted the total ground floor commercial area of 13,127 square feet, which totaled 68,633 square feet. Then we divided that by the average residential unit size proposed at 900 square feet, and therefore the base density came out to 76 units. And that's how the density bonus percentage was calculated to identify the total additional number of units that the developer would get. The project includes a request for an affordable housing agreement to allow the rental of the proposed 8 affordable units. The agreement would ensure continued affordability of the units and so that they may be rented to eligible individuals and households. If the owner ever decides to stop renting the units, in the future and would like to sell them individually, they would first need to amend the agreement with the city, and this was noted as condition of approval number 12. The general plan allows for mixed-use development in a commercial-specific plan area, so the proposed project would actually meet land use goals 1.5 and 1.9, housing goals 2.1 and 2.2, mobility goal 3.7, economic development goals 4.1 and 4.2, and community design goals 10.1 and 10.4. The project was reviewed for compliance with California Environmental Quality Act, which is CEQA. The project was deemed exempt from CEQA per guideline section 15332, which is a class 32 exemption. Technical studies relating to traffic, air quality, greenhouse gases, and noise were prepared by a city-selected consultant, which was Kimley Horn, and it was concluded that the project would meet the conditions necessary to qualify for the class 32 exemption. The public notice for the project was provided in the following ways. Mailed notices to all property owners and tenants within a 500-foot radius. Notice was posted at the project site, as shown in the photo. Agendas were posted at City Hall, the post office, and the public library, and it was also advertised in the San Gabriel Sun on August 31st, 2023. The Subdivision Map Act requires the City of San Gabriel to deny a tentative map if it makes any of the required findings for denial, and staff was not able to make any of the findings for denial. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving planning case number TMAP 23-001 for tentative track map number 84066 at 1975 to 1985 South Del Mar Avenue and 116 Glendon Way to allow for the subdivision of airspace for residential condominiums within a mixed-use development subject to the recommended conditions of approval. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for questions, and the applicant is also present tonight.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions of staff before we hear from the developer? Go ahead, John.
Does staff have, I guess I'm wondering who the proper authority would be in terms of evaluating geotechnical things such as contamination in the soil, what needs to be done, what kind of testing, things like that, or is that simply left up to the applicants, consultants to kind of do and convey to staff?
So the applicant's team did provide a phase 1 report analyzing potential contaminants on the site. The city's CEQA consultant, Kimley Horn, also reviewed that report as well, and I believe cross-referenced it with their in-house hazard specialist. It was found that along with the CEQA analysis wouldn't result in any significant effects to the environment at the site. Additionally, a categorical exemption cannot be used when a site is on the state's hazardous waste and substances site list, which is also known as the Cortese list, which this site is not on that list. I know that there were a number of precautions taken as far as the analysis goes of the site.
Yeah, I don't know if now's the proper time to get into that, but I do have a lot of questions around that phase 1.
Well, why don't we wait and talk
Okay.
to
All right.
the developer about that?
Okay, that's
Because I
fair
think
enough.
they're legitimate questions to be answered, so. Anybody, any other questions of staff?
Quick question, Vice Chair.
Go ahead.
These subdivisions has been decided in another meetings, or is it for us today to approve it?
This is before the Planning Commission for approval.
Is there a conversions from the single-family homes into the mixed use, or is it the same category? Because I see there's a like single-family homes in the back, little strip that's been combined into this development, right?
At 116 Glendon Way?
I believe so.
Yes, I believe there's existing, it's a duplex structure on site. So those would be demolished in order to construct this project.
Okay. The dedications to the streets, is it consistent with the city policy? I
Yes.
see like 5 feet on Del Mar and then 3 feet on Glendon Way or something like that.
Yes, I believe that was what was required by the Public Works Department.
Okay. No further, Vice Chair.
Okay. All right, are we ready to hear from the developer? Okay, thank you.
This is the clicker here.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us today. Staff, thank you so much for spending the last couple of months working through this project with us. My name is John Kelly. I'm a principal at Tyler and Kelly Architecture. I'm here alongside with my partner, Rob Tyler. I'm going to present the fun stuff, and then I'm going to let Rob do the dirty stuff later. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of our site planning exercise. We met about 364 days ago, and you saw slides very similar to this, so I'll run it through it pretty quickly. This is the site. It's located on Del Mar Avenue and Glendon Way, located in the VBSP MUCR. To the west is an R2 zone, and to the east across the street is an R3 zone. With regard to the site, we have a 15-foot rear setback, 5-foot street dedication, and 3-foot street dedication along West Glendon Way and Del Mar Avenue, respectively. We also have a 25-foot corner chamfer requirement. We've elected to pull the building away to the west to create 15-foot side yard setbacks, which leaves a buildable area in gray. Along the upper floors, we have a double-loaded corridor that wraps the east, west, and north property lines, with the core at the northeast corner, accessed from the more residential street, West Glendon Way. We have a driveway with in and out access on West Glendon Way and out access only on Del Mar Avenue. Programmatically, there's an anchor commercial on the corner, flanked by secondary commercials to its west and south, and a residential component on the south. Those would be proposed to be restaurants, a restaurant, LiveWorks, and a bank. This is the first floor plan to the left and a typical upper floor plan to the right, with those programmatic elements I described earlier. The open space comprises 10.2% of the site, and up above, a typical floor has about 25 units. Our unit matrix consists of 1 bedrooms, 1 bed plus dens, 2 beds, and 3 beds for 94 units total, 8 of which are affordable. And on the subterranean floors, there's residential parking, visitor parking in its core, and gates separating the two usages, with a total parking count of 195 spaces. We also have a second floor amenity space interior to the building and a 4,400 square foot outdoor amenity as well. With respect to the exterior character, we saw this site as sort of a gateway to the specific plan. This is a view from Del Mar looking north, and our site would be on to the left-hand side. A proposed massing could look like what's on the left, but also, it's feasible to imagine 10 or 15 years from now this area getting built up. So we're hoping that that this building will become a cornerstone for that specific plan, and some of the missing teeth will start to get filled in. We looked at a lot of different design options as well, and landed on a character similar to this. This is a view from the southwest, looking southeast. And this is a corner view from the northwest, looking southeast. I'm going to turn it over to Rob now.
Hi, my name is Rob Tyler with Tyler and Kelly Architecture. Thanks again for listening to us tonight, and especially for staff's hard work getting us to a hearing tonight. Forward. So, no, that's backwards. Okay, here we go. Okay, so just kind of going through a chronology, we presented to you about a year ago our preliminary concepts, which look very much like they do today. We conducted a community outreach meeting, having noticed the project to the same 500-foot radius occupants and residents on October 26th last year. We, of course, onboarded our engineers and began preparing for the combined submittal, and this is a combined submittal of precise plan design and the subdivision and density bonus hearing as directed by staff. We worked with Caltrans to look at any of the concerns that they might have given the proximity to the on-ramp for the HOV lane that is proximate to our property. And of course, Kimberly Horn looked at our CEQA documents and completed their review just recently. And here we are today, and we've got a design commission hearing date pending, depending on, of course, your decision tonight. I'm going to go through the conditions of approval, and I believe that many of these are housekeeping issues for this application, and I believe that staff has also had an opportunity to, at least in a preliminary sense, go through our responses to the proposed COAs with the departments that are applicable to each. And as I'm only going to go through the ones that we have concerns about. So the expiration lists a 2-year expiration. However, our public realm improvements are sure to exceed $270,000. So we would just simply request that the COA, if adopted tonight, would reference the subdivision map act in terms of the expiration date. Our affordable housing agreement, we believe, is applicable to the occupancy of the project, not the issuance of building permits, and so we would ask on item 12 that that language be amended to cite the occupancy, not the building permits. Likewise with the CC&Rs, and since the project, of course, doesn't exist, we can't record CC&Rs on a project that isn't there. So on item 21, you'll see that one. And then on item 22, this is a bit ambiguous, I guess, on our understanding of it. The proposed condition actually allows the planning department to impose conditions that are not discussed here, not part of any public hearing. We would request that that condition be removed. Item 27 cites that 9 street trees shall be planted on or provided on San Gabriel Boulevard. This may be a typo, I'm not really sure. That number doesn't really work on this property, and we have prepared a concept landscape plan in coordination with the city's landscape architect. So our request is that that this language be amended to reflect substantial conformance with the plan as presented. And on item 41, I'm not really sure where this is coming from. It seems to want vines all over walls and things like that. But once again, we have coordinated the landscape plan with the city's landscape architect, so we would either request clarity on this or request to strike that condition. Item 54, I've spoken to the city's building official today, and we've gotten to a point of clarity on that. The city, of course, will request an LID plan that goes with our building permit, and we're happy to provide that and have provided it, and we'll be able to work with the building department on any sort of low-impact development measures that are required. CC&Rs, I've already spoken to that, and just on item 66, request change to prior to occupancy rather than building permit. And then on item 87D, we've actually spoken to and worked with both the Planning Department and the Department of Transportation on our proposed driveway widths. We've illustrated the truck turning movements on the property and request that our coordination with them should be adequate to get their approval for what we're proposing, which is a less than 25-foot driveway to the property. So we've got 20 feet. We feel like that's adequate. We've demonstrated that's adequate. And additionally, our on-site ramps are proposed to be greater than the city's general standard. However, the 9, 18, and 9% ramps that we're proposing are gradients that we've successfully used in other projects and albeit other jurisdictions. However, they're not uncommon. Also, items 92 and 90 are the same condition, so it's just simply a duplication. Happy to answer any questions that I can. I've got also with us our density bonus specialist, Brooke Ferrer, here representing those particular parts of the application, and I may ask him to come up here and respond to any issues that I'm not able to. And with that, we're able to respond to the Commission's queries.
Okay. Sean, you want to ask a question now?
Well, yeah, I have, I mean, I'm happy to let my colleagues go first. I have quite a few questions on two different subject areas here. Just because it was brought up here on condition 22, I don't know if I'm comfortable removing that. That seems like that's a standard, something standard that our planning department put. It was in the last hearing we just looked at, the same condition. Given the size and scope of this project, I think it's important that there is some ability for the city to be able to have some discretion in terms of if something comes up that they were not made aware of or they find something out, to be able to make some changes. I mean, I think I would be okay if there's substantial changes, they have to come back to the commission for approval. But I'm happy to hear staff's thoughts on that, though. But that is something that I think is in a lot of our conditions of approvals for different projects. So I don't know if I would be okay taking that out. Regarding some of the other things, oh, sorry, go ahead if you had, did you want?
Go ahead.
Chair, if I may.
Please.
Thank you. One of the things to keep in mind, and yes, that is a standard condition. Any action that is taken either by the Public Works Director, Community Development Director, or Planning Manager is appealable. And if it is something that is so egregious that the applicant can't accept it or strays away from the conditions that were here approved, you have a very quick ability to take it up to the city manager. And if that's not satisfactory, bring it back to this commission. So the condition has been used in I think all of our projects. We have the same condition, at least all of the more complex projects. And I have never seen an appeal or somebody protesting staff imposing some undue hardships or conditions that aren't agreeable. So anyway, that's, again, you have the discretion to deal with the applicant's request, but the underlying bases are as such.
Oh, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
So I had two areas of inquiry. One is with the affordable housing agreement, and then one is with phase 1 testing and just potential contamination in general. I think maybe I'll go to the affordable housing questions first. I think it's a shorter list of questions. Yeah. and this may be something staff needs to clarify too, but it appears to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, the covenants for the, first of all, let me say thank you for including very low income. I really appreciate, that's, I'm an advocate of affordable housing, so I really appreciate that you put the very low in there, and I think that this looks like a nice project, and I hope it's something I would like to see built. Is it correct that the affordable housing agreement, that those very low income units have a covenant, a rental for 55 years?
So that is what the agreement says. Also, in the interest of our client, should the project be sold at some later date, we would agree to the idea that an amendment to that agreement would be required. I believe that the SB 330 application would lock in the requirements for qualifying for the density bonus with the date that the application was submitted. And so it wouldn't be subject to some future rules. It would be subject to the rules in effect at January of '23.
Okay, well then maybe this question's for staff, because I think it's important to have the covenants binding regardless of whether the ownership stays the same for the 55 years or it changes ownership. Yeah.
Like any entitlement, it would run with the property.
Okay, so that leads me to my question on the conditions of approval, section 12, or approval. There is a section that talks about if in the future the property owner decides to stop renting the affordable units and would like to sell the affordable units individually, the affordable housing agreement shall be amended with the city and recorded with the county listing the affordable units for sale. I just want to make sure, well, first of all, I think I would like to amend that for clarity if it's not implying that the owner can decide to terminate rental of those affordable units and sell them. And if they are allowed to do that, that they will be selling them to very low income residents, not at market rate. That's, so if someone.
I'll let staff respond to that. That's my understanding.
That's clear, yeah. I think the covenants for the rentals will be recorded on title. Property cannot be sold because they cannot be sold. They have to be rented under the agreement. Agreement would need to be amended in order for the owner, whether it's the current owner or the future owner of the project, to try to convert them for sale. At that time, generally, staff negotiates what conditions are applicable to the existing tenants, if there are any, whether it's a first right of refusal, whether it's a 6-month period of time for them to find additional housing. If and when that time comes, that agreement would come before the Planning Commission for approval.
But is that after the covenant of 55 years expires, or they can decide to do that at any time?
I'm sorry?
I guess I'm going back to section 12 and the conditions of approval. Is the owner then allowed to seek an amendment to the affordable housing agreement at any time to sell those units?
Yes, but sell them to low-income housing.
Sell them
as very low income.
very low.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
but they would have to go. Okay. Okay. I don't know. I don't think that that's necessarily clear. Maybe there's can add some language in that section there to make that clearer.
The affordability covenant, whether it's rental or sale, is binding for 55 years.
Okay. Just want to make sure that that's the case.
Burke here may have some input on that.
Sure.
I'm Burke Fair, and my business is Odyssey Development Services. It started in 1998. I've done multiple projects very similar to this. The reality is that this is very low-income housing. Trying to find somebody who qualifies for very low-income housing that the bank will lend money to is extremely difficult. So the likelihood of this issue coming up to ever be sold is very, very, very slim. Second, what I would say is that I look at affordable housing as trying to help people. trying to get them on their feet and be able to move into market rate housing. And so for that purpose, having it as rental, it gives the individuals who occupy these units that ability to improve their lives and move forward. So I understand your questions. Again, I don't think it's something that's likely to ever happen. It's kind of odd too, is despite doing these projects in multiple jurisdictions, this is the first city I've ever worked with that's ever asked the applicant to help in writing an affordable housing covenant. Every other jurisdiction has already an affordable housing covenant that they give to us, and we are required to meet their requirements. So I don't see it as something that we need to decide. I will defer to the city attorney's office to come up with the appropriate language at whatever given time to have the covenant worded the way the city of San Gabriel wants.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure the covenants were locked in.
Yeah, what Burke said is honestly a reality. So, I mean, if you are a very low-income individual and you're looking to buy a unit, likely in the county of Los Angeles, you can't qualify for that because you make too much money. It's a cat chases its own tail to some extent. So the intention here is to keep it as rental. The purpose of the condo map is to allow for flexibility from the owner's side of the development team.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. If Commission will indulge me now, I'll go to my next set of questions, and this is regarding the site and potential contamination. I just wanted to provide some context for the record. Almost a year ago today, the applicant came before us and presented pretty much this project as it is now. I think it's I don't think much has changed from what we were presented. There are two automotive repair businesses that have been there for over 50 years each. Those types of businesses commonly use chemicals and solvents that are known to contaminate the ground, such as gas, diesel, lead, solvents for metal cleaning, repairs, and potentially there's asbestos there in the older buildings. So these chemicals have known health risks. I think it's likely that the soil has absorbed these contaminants over the last 50 to 70 years. When you were back here a year ago, I had voiced my concerns about the possibility of soil contamination and potential vapor intrusion as a result, or potential water contamination. At the time, I think the architect of the applicant responded, at this point, I don't know, but we'll be taking the necessary precautions and taking the steps required to address that. My fellow Commissioner Schwartz also raised concerns, and I believe the applicant's consultant said we have done a phase one already and it's come back relatively with no concerns. Commissioner Schwartz went on to say you actually may want to do, it may take a phase two to actually know the soil is clean. So that may be something you want to do, and the response was understood. That was the response, I understand. So I looked at the phase one analysis. To me, it doesn't seem adequate. It seems like what it shows here in the report is that it simply did an evaluation that there were 2 underground storage tanks that they believed had been removed, and they did a geophysical survey to essentially confirm they were removed. One was with diesel. Another was with waste oil. And based on that, they said basically you're in the clear. There's nothing in there about potential leakage from those tanks. It doesn't say that there was an assessment done on any of the other solvents that those auto repair shops typically use that are known contaminants. So given that, and I looked at the attachment D as well, the toxic air contaminants methodology and whatnot, it seems to me it was simply tested for things in the air, primarily diesel fumes and emissions from the freeway and during construction. So my concern is that without actual soil samples or a phase 2, we aren't going to know for certain if there's contamination that potentially needs a vapor barrier. I think if there is some contamination, I think it can be mitigated. But I personally would like to see a phase 2 done. And as a result of the findings, the project proceeds from there, implementing any potential mitigation measures. So I don't know if anyone on the applicant's team wants to speak to that, but those are my concerns at the moment. And maybe that they can be addressed, or if the applicant would agree to do a phase 2, I think that can be part of the conditions of approval.
Would you guys like to speak to, to the status of the?
Yeah, absolutely. Having peripheral experience and contact with environmental consultants and our other team of consultants, whether it be CEQA or soils, we've submitted the information that we have subject to Kimley Horn's review. This information was brought up to us today, in fact. I think on behalf of the applicant, we're happy to continue with the phase 2. We understand the concern, and we would hope that with our agreement on that, you'd see your way to allow us to continue. I reread all of the information based on the comments that I heard from Commissioner Schwartz, and I understand what he's saying. There just simply wasn't enough time to circle back with NCOM in advance of tonight's meeting to have any sort of credible response to this question. And so we do recognize that it's an issue. We recognize the history of automotive uses on this site. I think it was our read on this during the application process that the quest for knowledge on that was based on whether or not there were tanks on the second property, which is the 1985 site, and not part of the historical record on the 1975 site. So these properties were originally joined and subsequently subdivided as some past date. So those records were separated. However, the use was like a common use, and the phase 1 that was prepared for the 1975 probably has much of the same data that you would find for both of those sites. However, in the interest of the public health, I think that we understand the concern, and we're happy to cooperate with it.
I appreciate that. I'll hand it off to my fellow commissioners.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, you guys have any questions for the developer?
Vice Chair, I have a quick question. It's not relating to my fellow commissioners' concern.
Okay,
But
go ahead, please.
What is the final architectural layout for your building? Is there any overhang? The reason I'm asking is like there's a dedications of 5 feet and 3 feet. Is there a overhang that protrude out to the public right of way?
Let me check with John here. No.
No, okay. And also the parking exit on Del Mar is so close to the freeway entrance. Is there any study, traffic impact study done on that?
We have done that. I believe it was part of your package. And also, that traffic study was submitted to Caltrans for their review, and they came back with only signage concerns.
Only signage, okay. I think there's a signal nearby. Is there a plan for the city that will incorporate the exit with that traffic, the signal? Do you know stuff?
I'll ask Christine to respond to that. I know LOS is not part of the figuring these days, but
Currently, I'm not aware of any plans for additional signals.
Okay, so there might be some impact because of the scale of this project is big, and then expecting trip generations out of that parking lot, right? So there might be some impact to the nearby businesses. Is there just a signage, or do we? What I'm trying to say is like the traffic coming out of the parking structure might be impacting on the existing traffic on the on Del Mar. So that's my only concern, that we need to take a look at it and mitigation measures should be studied.
I believe the traffic study that was completed for this project as part of the CEQA analysis reviewed that, that issue, and the Public Works Department as well would look at that further during plan check.
Okay, no further questions, Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question,
yes, sir.
and that is, how do you get private open space on a double-loaded corridor?
Well, you don't.
Well, where's the open space for the,
So we have a large second floor outdoor amenity space. We have a second floor interior amenity space, and we have outdoor amenity space on the south setbacks. Sorry, west setbacks. Well, balconies, yes, but that's private, yes.
okay,
We have, I believe we comply with all of
The
the
open space
requirements for open
requirements.
space.
okay. I'm just curious how you do it in a,
It was difficult. There's a bit of a conundrum in the city's code. I mean, it says that 90% of the site has to be covered with building, but yet you have to have a certain amount of open space. So
right.
it's something to look at.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of the developer?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a signal on Glendon and Del Mar, isn't there?
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I have one question for staff, actually, was the 25-foot requirement. Where did that come from?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Kratman. Was it regarding the condition number 87? I actually discussed that with the Public Works Engineering Department. I believe the language was incorrect. It was actually regarding the driveway approach, not the driveway width.
Okay, so this is, staff is okay with this request?
Yes. Any other questions?
All right. All right, now's the time for public hearing. If anybody in the audience would like to speak on this item, we'll open the public hearing. Seeing nobody, will close the hearing. Yeah, that's next. Jackie, have we heard, do we have any comments from by email or anything?
Vice Chair, we did not receive any.
All right, thank you. Okay. So we'll close that portion of the hearing, and it's time for discussion amongst commissioners on this item.
Okay, I can start, I guess.
Go
if
ahead,
you want.
Matt.
I think a lot of these requests for amendments are just kind of typo type issues. If changing it from the building, issuing of building permits to the certificate of occupancy is not an issue, because you're going to have even more leverage when you have the certificate of occupancy and they've spent all their money on their building. So that, I don't think the city's got any issues at risk for those changes. And then, so I went through all of these and I didn't see any particular one, like San Gabriel Boulevard that's definitely a typo. I think they meant Del Mar. So I think these are all pretty agreeable to me. And there will be, they will be checking out the soils, because there's a soils report required, and they're going to have to do it once they start excavation and drilling, things like that, and the shoring for the subterranean basement. So all that dirt's going to come out, or a lot of it anyway. So a lot of that stuff is going to come up in the course of construction anyway, through the whole soils report and geotechnical engineering process. So, okay.
Okay. Question.
Yeah, so in terms of their requested amendments, I don't see anything other than the 22 that I brought up I wanted to keep in, which was clarified by the city attorney. I'm going to defer to staff on if they're okay with them, then I don't see an issue with them either. My primary concern is the soil contamination, and even so the phase 2 is my understanding that takes place before any construction or any soil is moved. While I know some of that soil will be removed, it could also be moved around. So I think it's very important that the phase 2 is done, regardless of how much soil's removed, to determine whether there needs to be any mitigation done to prevent potential toxins getting into there. I'd rather be safe than sorry. So if it seems like the applicant is agreeable to that, I would be with that included in the conditions of approval, that a phase 2 needs to be conducted before construction begins, and based on the findings of that phase 2, then any potential mitigation measures appropriate to mitigate anything that may come up will be implemented. So I think that it's certainly important to do soil samples from at multiple levels, especially on the sites where the automotive repairs were. I appreciate the applicant's willingness to do that, because that sets me at ease, and that will, if that is agreeable, then I will vote to approve this project with that condition.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Vice Chair.
Yes. Commissioner.
Condition 22, I think I also would like to keep it. And the others, as our fellow commissioner says, there's some just clarifications and then language typos, so the others can be amended. We would like to give city staff room to kind of negotiate and then put some conditions. So that's the reason we would like to keep condition 22. I don't know too much about the background of the project, but listening on my fellow commissioners' comments, I think there is a public benefits if we do contamination report on the soil. Geotechnical is not a contamination study. It is just a soil study for the shorings and other purposes. So to move forward with the project, I agree with our commissioner's request to amend or conditions to move forward with a geotechnical clearance, termination clearance.
Okay, thank you. I have to agree with Sean that we definitely need phase two. And if it's clean, great. If it's not, there's mitigation that's doable, especially if the tanks have already been removed. I noticed on the last condition where you say conditions 90 and 92 are the same, they are. About as-built? Yeah, that appears to be the case. Condition 54, you wanted some clarification. What is the issue with condition 54 about rainwater discharge?
I've sorted that out with Building Division. It's really just a subject of the LID plan. It's like what happens to the, how is LID compliance achieved? We have actually a plan submitted with your package. It's a preliminary LID plan, but there will be subsurface reinfiltration devices placed below the lowest level of the B garage. And it was just frankly, there's vague language that the design team didn't understand. But I received a call today from the building official who assured me that, once we go through the LID approval process, that issue will be covered.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so we don't really need to worry about that for us. Okay. And I agree with my fellow commissioners about condition 22 as standard for our agreements. I do have to say, I also am very pleased that you're doing very low income housing in this project and that it's not just all one bedrooms. That's the one thing that no one has commented on up to now. You're doing 2 bedrooms and a 3-bedroom. And I think that's really nice. I think that's important because families are different sizes, different needs, and you've provided enough of a range to hopefully meet some of the variety of needs that are necessary at that level. So very much appreciate that. And also that you call out specifically the units, and again, they're not all on one floor, they're on multiple floors. And so I think that's also very important. I think this is an important project because of the affordable housing and because I think it's appropriate, obviously, to provide the density bonuses in exchange for the affordable housing. As to the overall affordable housing agreement, I have some professional experience from this. In my career, I wrote or reviewed a lot of agreements in this agreement. The affordable housing agreement, by and large, is a pretty standard agreement. I didn't see anything particularly one-sided either way or the other. I think it's a pretty down the straight ahead, but I agree that that it does apply to occupancy and not building permits. I think that's true. I think, but it should be recorded before you get your C of O. I certainly can see where that makes sense. As to the other conditions other than 22, it sounds like all of us on the commission are pretty comfortable with these changes. So I guess I would move approval of.
Chair, before you proceed, can I address one condition just
Please.
to have some clarity? It hasn't really been raised. I'm talking about condition number 9.
Yes,
My
please.
reading of 66452.6, which is the government code section that governs it, is that the projects that have the public works component greater than, in today's world, I think it is 270,000, we'll start off with 232, I think, are subject to some additional rules when it comes to extending the original map, but the 2-year original term is the same. Unless you can show me a place in the code, which I might have missed, that it's otherwise, but
I may be jumping in, but I think all we're asking for is just to reference the section.
perfect, that's what I was going to suggest,
Okay,
so we
thank you.
don't have a, right. So, Chair, Commission members, if you are all right with the following proposed change, and then obviously if the applicant is okay. The tentative track map shall expire after 2 years from date of approval or as otherwise extended by Government Code Section 66452.6. And then the rest of it will follow, the rest of the condition will follow.
Is that acceptable? Okay, thank you. All right. Would anybody like to make a motion regarding this, or maybe I will. I will move approval of the there it is, the tentative track map and the affordable housing agreement, subject to the conditions, clarifying conditions from staff, and also the inclusion of condition number 22 and condition number 9 per the city
As
attorney,
amended, yeah.
as amended by the city attorney. So, I make that motion. Is there a second?
Just a point of clarification regarding the amendment to conditions of approval with the phase 2. How are we adding that? What is the language for that? And I just want to make sure that it's a thorough. I don't know what's involved, everything that's involved in a phase 2. I just want to make sure that the soil's properly tested at different
Phase
levels.
2 is a very specific set of.
All right, so we'll just do the,
Yeah,
okay,
Phase 2 is very specific requirement.
okay,
People understand what that means.
okay. Well, I'll defer to you then, Jerry, on that, and okay, if that's part of the conditions of approval, then I will,
Okay, yes, let also include in the approval, the requirement of phase 2 on the 2 sites.
with, dependent on the findings, proper mitigation
Proper
Or-
mitigation,
yeah.
right,
measures.
absolutely. Yes. Do you second that?
I do, I second that, sorry.
Okay. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Commissioner McMorris,
Aye?
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Krapman,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Schwartz.
Yes.
Okay, the vote is 4-0, motion passed.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Good luck to you guys.
Thank you, it's a nice project, and thank you for the affordable housing.
All right. Next on the agenda is comments from the planning manager.
No comments, Vice Chair.
Okay. Can I just make a comment? I think it's appropriate, given the the discussion that we've had in the past and the actions that we have taken as a commission on affordable housing for both rental and for sale, that we have a project tonight that has affordable housing. That's from my standpoint, reassuring while we wait for other actions from others. It's reassuring to have a project come through like this tonight. Just one person's opinion. So, okay.
Commissioner Shorts, I'll second that. I'm still hopeful we'll get an affordable housing ordinance at some point, but I'm grateful for the applicants that are coming forward proposing to do affordable housing. We desperately need it, and so this is a drop in the bucket, but it's a start. So I do appreciate that as a commissioner and as a resident and a renter. So.
Yes. All right. Any other comments from commissioners? Okay. If not, we will adjourn the commission meeting to the next regular meeting on Monday, October 9th, 2023 at 6:30 here at City Hall. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.